Hi, so this channel is new, and this is its first video, and the first in a series where I review slash recommend webcomics. It's also almost Halloween, and while I'm not planning to be any type of horror YouTube channel, I did think it would be nice to make my first content something related to Halloween. But instead of doing something actually scary, I thought I'd start with a nice little horror comedy webcomic. So I'd like to ask, do you like cute stuff? Do you like horror? Do you like black comedy in the background? Do you like those comics or memes involving Sadako as she exits the television? Well, then I've got a recommendation of a spooky little webcomic called ERMA. What is ERMA? It's a horror comedy webcomic by Brandon Santiago. Currently, it's got 72.9 million views and about 80,000 and a half subscribers on its home website, which might make you think it's super big. But keep in mind, with nearly 450 comics, that amounts to each comic being only viewed roughly twice by each of those subscribers. So not very big. Now, while the series is popular enough to get multiple physical releases, including two collection books, some world-building anthologies, and a prequel about her parents, it's much closer to cult status than anything else. Checking on YouTube shows that most videos don't have very many views, with far and away the most popular video being an official animated prequel sitting at 1.7 million views. In fact, the other videos from the official channel have never even gotten to 80,000. And most other videos don't go beyond a few thousand, if they even reach that. As a side note, that animation is actually pretty good and is definitely something you should check out even if you have no plans to read the rest of the series. Seriously, it's got great animation, good sound, and a lot of charm. So beyond what, let's ask who is Irma? Well, if you go by the official site, she just happens to be a normal young girl who goes to school like everyone else, who happens to be the daughter of a ghostly spirit. Now, despite what the general aesthetics and some incorrectly tagged posts on the internet will tell you, she is not the daughter of Sadako or Samara or however you want to call her. While there is a clear strong aesthetic influence, with in fact the second official comic of the series having her mother climb out of a television to give her her lunch which she left at home, there really isn't much of a connection beyond looks. Irma and her mother are a yokai and half yokai respectively, naturally born, unlike Samara/Sadako who happen to be ghosts regardless. Their powers are somewhat similar, but that's just more of a generic spooky ghost thing than any actual influence. Irma herself is just a sweet innocent child who, despite her powers, doesn't act malicious at all. She does occasionally scare people, but to her, it's just all good-natured fun. The series has fun with having some characters act the way a normal person would when having a scary ghost girl chase them around. For example, one of her teachers is deathly afraid of her and gives her straight A's out of fear of what Irma might do despite never having been threatened. Yet another character is Irma's original babysitter, who was driven insane by her affectionate pranks while she was babysitting. The rest of the human cast basically treats her as my friend with superpowers, or that kid with superpowers. One of the quirks of the series is that it's kept deliberately vague if Irma can actually speak normally. On panel, we have seen her scream and laugh, but we've never seen her words come out of her mouth directly. However, it's never been explicitly said that she's mute, and there are implications that characters know that she speaks to them, so it's a bit weird. Irma's family is made up of her mother, a full-blooded yokai called Emiko, and her father, Sam Williams, a horror writer. As revealed in the prequel, her parents started dating like any ordinary couple, with Sam not even realizing that his wife was a yokai until an incident occurred involving Emiko's parents kidnapping her due to not liking her relationship with a human. Also from the prequel, we learn that Emiko did not always look like Sadako. In fact, she's able to dress and look however she wants, and only took on this appearance while in captivity from her parents keeping her away from her husband. And it seems she just decided she liked the look and decided to keep it. In fact, we see with other supernatural beings in the series that they can really dress up however they want. Furthermore, Emiko, unlike Irma, speaks quite often on panel, which leads credence to the theory that Irma actually can talk and is just never presented doing so on panel. As for Sam, there's really not much to say about him other than the fact that he uses his life living with a daughter and wife who happen to be supernatural entities as part of his horror writing, which explains why he's apparently critically acclaimed in universe. Some people have questioned if he's a self-insert for the author, but honestly, I don't really see it. He just seems like a cool guy and never really takes up too much panel time. There's a whole host of other side characters, including Irma's classmates, her teachers, her babysitter, her father's side of the family, who, as a note, are all named after serial killers or horror movie survivors. However, most of the other side characters haven't appeared in quite a while, ever since the current arc taking place in Japan with Emiko's side of the family started. And that leads to a nice little transition into the plot of the series. When I first started this video series, I was originally going to say that there wasn't much of a plot and that the stories are mostly episodic. And then I thought about it and also reread the series and realized we've actually been in a major story arc since about January 2018. While the author still continues to do the occasional one-shot comic and always does the yearly Halloween extravaganza, it can't be understated that this story arc has indeed taken over the central plot of Irma and has been going on for at least half the comic's lifespan on the internet. Now, while I do enjoy this arc, it is a strange thing to note that we haven't seen most of the American side characters in nearly 3 years, outside of their appearance in those aforementioned one-shots. So there's a definite change to a more story-focused direction in recent years, which makes it quite funny that the deepest lore plot has barely been touched upon at all. You see, as revealed in the prequel, it turns out Irma's some type of apocalypse maiden who will quite possibly cause the end of the world. At least that's what an ominous invisible man in a top hat and suit thinks. Now, the current actual plot of the Japan arc is Irma and her family visiting Emiko's side of the family after they were invited in by their grandparents, and trying to discover why exactly they were invited and try to sort out Emiko's complicated relationship with her family. The fact that it's set in Japan and in a yokai village no less is really nice for the series. It allows the author to interpret more designs for mythology and create their own for the various creatures that we see, as well as the fact that it lets us see more into the deeper lore of the world, which had only previously been hinted at in previous issues of the webcomic and a little more deeply in some of the prequel books. This really helps deepen the world and makes it much more interesting, as well as allowing Irma to play off people who aren't just civilians to her superhero. Seriously, you get to see Irma interact with her cousins, get to see her play with kids her own age who can also do weird supernatural things, get to see them mess around with other local kids who those cousins turn out to be bullying, get to see her interact with local gangs who apparently hate her family just because they did something long ago in the past that isn't quite yet well explained. But hey, it did lead to some pretty cool fight scenes. Oh yeah, there's like totally a supernatural anime fight scene and stuff, and it's like not super great, but it's still totally weird for the tone of this series originally had. Overall, it seems that the point of this arc, as well as the other arc, is to show that this world is different from our world on a very fundamental level. It seems that this world really is filled with all those types of horror icons that we see in our movies and media, and that the world is about to get even stranger and perhaps more interconnected, and Irma is going to be the key to all of this. To wrap this up, I'd like to talk about the art, which I hope is self-evidently pretty nice. It's not the greatest art in the world, but it does look quite pretty and has improved a lot over time, and manages to create this feeling that is just perfect for the creepy cute vibe that this webcomic is going for. In terms of complaints, my major complaint would have to be that the update schedule just isn't very reliable. I've also got minor gripes with the dialogue, which can come off as a bit stilted and rough at times, but overall, it's serviceable. It does get in the way of the emotional beats, and the jokes still land. Lastly, from a story perspective, I really wish they'd stop putting so many important story beats in paid-for only content. I realize that they have to make money, but still, it's strange because a lot of your fandom probably does not have access to these things. Regardless of all of that, I would still give this series 7 days to live over a black cat on Friday the 13th. Thank you and good night.